Okay, guys, so today I'm going to break down Hafthor Bjornsson's meet, which he just had 2 days ago. So, obviously, the goal at this meet was not to break Daniel Bell's total record of 26:06 in reps. That wasn't going to happen until later in the year. So, I completely understand that. This was just kind of chipping away towards that. Now, my guess, I have no idea, but my speculation would be that he'll do one more meet later in the year, probably in the late fall, around November or December, where he'll try to break Daniel Bell's record, the 26:06. So it's coming. He's going to work up to that, I'm sure. Because you got to understand, he just was basically off everything, or he was on a cruise dose. I'm sure he was probably on a cruise dose with HCG, and him and his wife had a child. So this is probably his first full cycle in a considerable amount of time going into this meet. Because if you look at his training, I mean, he really started ramping things up from a few months ago until now. It's pretty, that much is obvious. I mean, the weights he was hitting a few months ago were nowhere near what they are now. And he was much smaller. So obviously he's put on a considerable amount of mass in that time frame and really kind of gotten into it pretty seriously here again. So let's even look at this one. I mean, back in January 10th, 225 kilos, 496 pounds for 5 reps, 3 sets of 5. And, I mean, obviously, we're going to watch this video here, and it's not going to be difficult weight at all. I'm sure this will fly up. This won't be hard at all. So he kind of was easing back into it. Full depth, smooth reps, just kind of biding his time. So there was obviously a slow ramp up, compared to, at this meet, I think he took around 445 on squat, 980 pounds, I believe is what his squat was. So he really obviously ramped it up. Now, something interesting here. Look at this, guys. This is pretty interesting, actually. Thor has a lot less internal rotation of his right hip than his left. So this is something that might, a lot of people might glance over and not really pay attention to. But let's watch one more time the 225, 495 pound squat for 5. Look at his right foot. Look at how much more angled out his right foot is than his left. That is a lack of internal rotation on the right side. That's what's going on there. So you can see it clear as day here. The right foot's way more angled out. I have the same problem, actually. Ironically, my right foot is angled out a lot more. That's an internal rotation issue. So the 90-90 stretch, if you look that one up, that would expose that to a considerable extent. But that's just something I just noticed right there. Now let's fast forward a bit. This is February 16th. This is the 683-pound deadlift for 3 reps. So again, the cycle's starting to kick in here, and the weights are getting a little heavier. This is, again, very easy. And this is one of the things that Thor and his coach, Australian strength coach, do a really good job of. Most of his sets are very easy, and you honestly want to be hitting the majority of your reps and sets in training to where there's room to spare. There's more reps in the tank. They're in that RP 7 to 8 range. You don't want everything to be an RP 9, 10 grinder. They should be very smooth. This is RP 7 weight. I mean, he's just absolutely crushing this with ease. And a lot of your training should be just like this, just speed work. So, you can just see the progression, though. He really ramped it up. Now, let's go to the actual meet here. Weighed in at 180.5 kg, roughly 397 pounds. Openers were 882-pound squat, 507-pound bench, and a 826-pound deadlift. So, pretty solid openers, obviously. I mean, none of us can really fathom that. But I don't know. I think Thor got down to earlier. He's around 320 pounds, 145 kg, and now he's at 397. So, definitely a hefty cycle. Now, instead of going through the stream and picking out all of his attempts, let's go to the lifting vaults videos, because he actually broke them down, the individual lifts. He picked them out, because it's a lot of work to pick them out, guys. I don't want to do that. So let's look at lifting vault. It has Thor's squat attempts, which basically, this is the 380 opener, 838 pounds. So I'm confused here, because he says He said his opener on squat was going to be 400, but he dialed it back to 838. That's really interesting. So he even had here the day before, but he dialed it back. And that flew up. That was really fast here. Very fast squat. Completely smoked it. Very hard to tell. Depth looks kind of close, but it was like a speed rep. That's what you want your openers to be. A big mistake guys make is they just go way too, or they go way too heavy on their opener. Sorry, I'm kind of watching this, trying to figure out, are these attempts correct? So let's see here. So this is 926 second attempt. Let's look at that. Good depth. That flew up almost as easy as the opener. So he's got a really good strategy, and they go right to the third. 981, 445 kg. And you can kind of see it here. He cut it a little bit, which this is more mental than physical. Like, he could clearly have hit depth and still smoked it. But a lot of times the mistake guys make is when the weight gets heavy, they kind of lose the mental composure, and they cut the depth ever so slightly. Like, you're capable of hitting that weight to full depth, but you just get in your head because it's a big number. And obviously this is the most weight Thor has squatted in probably years, because he came back on cycle for this meet and hit it hard. So it probably was a bit of a mental battle. In training, I think he hit 420, so 926 his second attempt. And that was good depth. You can see the difference. But 981 is uncharted waters for him in a long time. So he definitely, cut the depth a little bit here, even though he didn't have to. He was probably good for 1,003. So he's probably good for way more than that, 455 kg, based on how fast that moved. You just get in your head. It's a mental thing where, you have to really be diligent about getting down there, just even despite the weight being heavy. You just have to keep getting down there. Now let's go into his bench. So obviously everyone's heard by now he had the pec tear. We don't know. I don't know yet if it's, I saw somewhere that they said maybe it's a full rupture, but it could have been the coracobrachialis. So I don't know if he actually tore the pec, the insertion, the pec attachment, the actual muscle, and he would have to get surgery if he tore the pec. But if he tore the coracobrachialis, that's the point where the armpit is, the upper armpit, right where the shoulder attaches to the chest. So the front delt attaches to the chest, right at the upper armpit. That's the coracobrachialis. This is the most common thing I see strained. And I used to strain it all the time when I was on steroids and on cycle, because your tendons and everything, they can't keep up with the progress of your muscles. So you always tend to tear that. It's very common to strain that. But anyway, he hit 507 for his opener, pretty easy. Jumped to 529. And I think this is the most he'd done in training, so it matched it. Moved smooth enough where you'd think 551, 250 kg was there. They jumped to 557, which I believe was an appropriate call based on the bar speed. And then at the very bottom, he strains the pec. So this is something you often see, guys. When you see a muscle strain, especially with someone on PEDs, it's often at the bottom of the lift. So when I did my 783 squat, it was at the very bottom, 355 kg squat. I walked it out. It felt light, felt great. The strength was there. I got to the bottom of the lift, and my quad tore. The vastus lateralis, my outer quad tore. And same thing here with Thor on this 252.5 kg bench, right at the bottom, his pec tears. So, this is one of those situations where it comes down to, like, your muscles are getting too strong too quickly, and the rest of your body can't keep up due to the PEDs. So I see this way more with enhanced athletes than natural athletes, where they get the coracobrachialis strain right here, right at the upper armpit area, just because they're getting so strong so quick. So this is where Thor probably ran this big cycle, and he got so strong that he wasn't able to his body couldn't keep up. That's all it is. And that's why I see this all the time. And if it's a coracobrachialis strain, it's not too serious. It'll heal up within a month. If it's an actual pec muscle tear, that's a whole different story. That's going to require surgery and everything. So we'll have to see in the days to come what they say. Now, it's a little bit of a bummer we didn't get to see Thor deadlift, because I was most interested in seeing his deadlift. given that he has a freakish deadlift, we all know this with the 1105 deadlift he's hit with straps in a suit, but his grip has always been the limiting factor. So I was very curious to see if his grip held up at the meet and what he would have been capable of hitting, because I believe his opener was 827, and I would have been really curious to see what he could have had grip wise, how his grip would have held up, and what he would have been capable of. But there's a few things at play here. We'll see if he bounces back. Maybe he'll choose to do a meet in summer, depending on the severity of the pec tear. Maybe he'll do one in winter, which was my guess. And we can't write him off at all. He's just getting back into it. He definitely has a shot at Daniel Bell's record. He's an awesome competitor. Everyone's rooting for him. Everyone loves him. Everyone loves Dan. And I can't wait to see what happens. But this is kind of my breakdown of his meet and what happened. If you guys like the video, give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.